Delta-8, Delta-9, Delta-10. What's the difference? What's legal? What do you need to know? So Delta-8, Delta-9, and Delta-10 are all technically part of the cannabis plant. They're just different chemical strains. They are all basically different types of THC. Typically, when somebody's talking about THC, they're talking about the Delta-9 strain. That's the one that you've probably always heard of that is now legal in Colorado. That's your typical quote-unquote weed. Now, the other two forms of THC, Delta-8 and Delta-10, are synthetic chemical makeups of THC. There's very, very tiny trace amounts of the Delta-8 and Delta-10 in the cannabis plant, and those are extracted, mixed together in a lab, somehow made into these different strains of THC. The effects of the three, Delta-8, Delta-9, and Delta-10, can vary from strain to strain, but their basic premise of getting you intoxicated is the same. So what's legal? At the federal level, it's a little more complicated. Delta-8 and Delta-10 are technically legal under the Farm Bill Act of 2018. The Farm Bill plant of 2018 made anything less than 0.3% THC legal, and typically Delta-8 and Delta-10 are under that 0.3% THC level. The issue comes in when you're talking about state-to-state laws. Some states have laws that specifically restrict and make any synthetic cannabis or cannabinoid illegal. While Delta-8 and Delta-10 naturally occur in the cannabis plant, the definition of synthetic can be very broad and lead to the otherwise legal Delta-8 and Delta-10 to become illegal, just based on whatever state you're in's definition. Here in Texas, lawmakers have implemented laws that allow for physicians to prescribe low amounts of THC if they believe it is medically necessary. However, there are people who still try to get through that loophole in the Farm Bill Act of 2018. Since there are no real regulations on what determines the THC level, where the THC is coming from, the labs where it's grown, etc., it's hard to tell what you're actually getting, even if you're going to a store. If you're planning to go buy Delta-8 or Delta-10 from a convenience store or another CBD or vape store, make sure what you're buying is actually considered Delta-8 or Delta-10, because there is a chance that it could come back as Delta-9 and you could get in trouble for it here in the state of Texas. One more thing to look out for is drug testing. Delta-8, Delta-9, Delta-10 all come back as positive for THC. So if you're in a career where you have to get drug tested frequently, or you're trying to get into a diversion program and you're drug tested, it will come back as THC even if you haven't smoked what we typically call as weed. Delta-8, Delta-9, and Delta-10 is a tricky area. So if you have questions or concerns, you can always check out our blogs about Delta-8. If you find yourself in trouble for having Delta-8 or Delta-10 and it coming back as Delta-9, call the attorneys at Varghese Summersett. We can help you. Our number is 817-203-2220.